In this episode of the Omega Beam, Golden and I talk about the movie Venom. Full speed ahead.
The Omega Beam. The Omega Beam. Full power.
Welcome to the Omega Beam number 26. I'm your host, Orren Merton, and this is the first episode in a while. The studio has been in pieces, as I mentioned in the last episode, and it has been quite the job. I don't mean rewiring in the sense of unplugging things and plugging them in again. It's been a rewire in the sense of tearing the walls open and ripping out the wires, replacing the wires, all that kind of stuff, putting the studio on its own isolated power circuit. It took a long time to rip it all down. It took a long time to do the wiring. And now it's taking a long time to put it all back together. And it's still not completely back together. But it's together enough that I can do these intros and outros. Golden and I recorded a series of conversations in between these podcasts. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be releasing them as individual episodes. I think what works best, especially for finding content later on the site, is if I stick to one subject per episode. So today's episode is about the movie Venom, released by Sony. A nice little comic book movie that I believe is already out of the theaters. So I hope you enjoy Golden and I discussing it for you. I'm here with Golden to talk about the movie Venom. It's a little after the fact because I believe it's already out of the theaters, I think.
It might be. I guess it would because I've already seen an advertisement for the DVD or digital copy.
Yeah, that's how you know it's out of the theater. But hey, we've been busy. So what did you think?
Overall, very enjoyable. I liked it. I thought that the characters were strong. I thought that the story moved really well. The visual effects were awesome. The only thing that I kind of struggled with and had a hard time with was, I think, also something that you also had the same problem with, when that was Venom's change of heart being way too abrupt.
Definitely.
It's like, okay, I guess I'm the bottom of the chain of my species if things go the way that they are right now. So I think I'll just go with everyone else. Go with the humans.
Yeah, for those who don't know the comic history of Venom, it's almost a little bit surprising that Venom kind of took on literally a life of its own, because Venom was created as a suit. Venom was created to simply be the new suit for Spider-Man. That was it. It's that Venom was a living, quote-unquote, symbiote, meaning it was an alien inside of that. It was, rather than just having Peter Parker wear just another pair of clothing, they decided, hey, wouldn't it be funny if Peter Parker wore an alien? I mean, that would give him all kinds of crazy powers, and we could make all kinds of bizarre, interesting stories with him talking to his suit. And they did that for a number of episodes until he got, or issues, until he got another suit. And then it went to this other guy, Eddie Brock, because Venom kind of took on its own thing. But that's
it was its own character now.
It's now its own character, but it's
not weird.
It is kind of funny. One of the criticisms that the fans had is, for the entire length of time that this movie was in development, the big question was, will Peter Parker show up? Is Spider-Man going to be in this? Because Spider-Man and Venom are absolutely, synonymous? Yeah, I mean, literally, they are synonymous. They were at one point the same thing. But he didn't. Marvel's off in their own world, and Sony was good enough to let Marvel use Spider-Man in their own movies, but they still want their own franchises, and here we go. I was not as euphoric about the film as you are.
I wouldn't say euphoric, but I enjoyed it.
It was, I enjoy it too, because when it comes to comic book movies, I'm a real easy mark. I mean, it as long as it hits, as long as the main actor playing the superhero, or actress playing the superhero, is good, I'm willing to forgive a whole lot. That's why comic book movies that really missed the mark, like Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, I still really enjoyed it because I thought Ryan Reynolds was great.
So I'm sitting here and thinking about him talking to himself and Tom Hardy talking to himself and trying to figure this whole thing out. And I'm getting these flashes of Happy as well. And him originally talking.
The TV show Happy, yeah.
To this imaginary figure that only he can see.
Right.
And seeing the similarity of those two people kind of figuring it out.
Right. No, and it's a good trope, and I do think the writers did a good job with that on this film. And I think we have to give Thomas Hardy a lot of credit because from what I understand, this was kind of a labor of love for him, and you can kind of tell because he really put a lot into it. I mean, he created a very unique character compared to the other roles he plays. And I must admit, I've only read like maybe a couple issues of Venom ever, so I'm not a Venom professor or anything.
Aficionado.
Yeah, exactly. But I do think that, I know that in the comics, Eddie Brock was kind of, this gung-ho, gonzo journalist, but also kind of a butt. And I think that Tom Hardy managed to get it all. I think he managed to give him that heart and that soul, but also make him like enough of a selfish prick that you kind of got the feeling that even though he's kind of on the side of angels, it's real easy for people to hate him.
Yeah. And I think, it's been a while, so I'm like trying to remember all of the things. And I appreciated the way they ended it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the ending was good.
I think the fact that she stayed true to the path that she chose.
Yeah.
And there's still that mystery of who he is.
Right.
And who Venom is.
Yeah, it wasn't a happy ever after. It wasn't a let's wrap everything up with a nice bow that the boy gets the girl and everything else.
I'm glad that Hollywood is seeing that they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. I agree with that. All comic book movies kind of rise and fall on their visual effects and their action scenes. In general, I thought the visuals were very good, but there were a few points where it looked kind of really cartoony, like especially when there's this big major fight where Venom and Riot, wonderful names for aliens, Venom and Riot are fighting it out by this this space capsule, and they're going at each other, and at one point they punch each other so hard that the humans fly out, and that looked so fake. I mean, I thought that just some part, but overall, I thought they did a great job with
It's a comic book movie.
Yeah, it is, and it did look very cartoony. But on the other side, I think when they were just having Venom walking around, I mean, he fit in with all the live action scenes and stuff really well.
And I appreciate the relationship that starts to develop between Tom Hardy's character, Eddie Brock, and Venom, where he's trying to teach Venom how to be able to make choices.
Right.
That it's not always just eat that person's head. But then Venom's also kind of teaching Eddie Brock that, some people, they might just deserve it.
Sometimes you eat somebody's head. But yeah, it was really good. And one of the things that in the comics, from the very few I did read, I do remember, is that Venom could switch people. So I did think it was kind of cool that we saw a little bit of that when Venom takes the body of his girlfriend Anne for a moment, basically, so Venom can get back to Eddie. And I thought that was that was a nice use of that.
And I don't know if there are still any others that are left, or if all of the other ones died.
Yeah, well, I think what we're supposed to understand is that the civilization is outside the planet, and it's fine. These are just the ones that came here. So he may be the only one left on Earth, but certainly is not the only symbiote in the universe.
If so, then Venom has exactly what he wants, exactly. Which is to be the top of his own species on a planet.
Exactly. The other thing I would criticize about the movie is that its tone varied a lot. I mean, sometimes it seemed like it was trying to be this sort of I don't want to say issues movie, but they were trying to make it serious about the state of the world and going outside the planet to try and get away and stuff. But then other times it was just like a kind of trying to be more zany with him, splashing around in the lobster tank and stuff. And, it was fine and I enjoyed it. It was fun, but it did kind of make it seem a little bit like disjointed, as I said, that it wasn't quite as on point, I think, is when the tone remains the same for the entire movie. But I enjoyed it, and when it comes out on video, I will buy it. If I'm guessing there'll be a sequel because the movie made a ton of money. It was a hit for a few weeks, and it made a lot of money. Also, Venom, I think, and this is smart, like Ant-Man and some of the other movies, they're not putting $250 million into them. They're keeping the budgets lower. And by doing that, it can be a smaller movie. And this movie made the money of an Ant-Man, and it had the budget of an Ant-Man. And so everybody was thrilled with it. Everybody was saying, this is fantastic. We did it. And that's good, because when a movie, this was the first run out. Nobody knew if it was going to be successful or not, and it was. So the hope is that the next one, they can bring in even more talent. They can, they'll have a bigger budget. They'll be able to...
Or maybe they'll keep the budget low again.
Right, keep it low and make money on it.
Have a very successful movie.
Yeah. Not every comic
Doesn't
franchise...
have to be flashy or showy or way out there in order to be successful and to impress.
Yeah, I have to admit that Venom was not one of the ones that I was like super excited on the edge of my seat for. I wanted to see it because I generally like comic book movies, but I have to say that it wasn't perfect, but it impressed me enough that I'm looking forward to the next one.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Golden.
You're welcome.
And that's our episode. I hope you liked it. You can find the show notes at theomegabeam.com/number 26. Now, the Omega Beam website has been completely redone. So please give it a look. Even if you don't normally go to the website, I think you'll like it. And it's definitely worth a look to you. And if you liked this episode, if you like the new format of just one topic per episode, please drop me an email at info@theomegabeam.com. And if you like the episode, leave a review in the Apple Podcasts app or iTunes or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Be good to yourselves and each other, and we will catch you next time.